Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for today's video, we're checking out the fourth iteration of the Freediver from the micro brand Traska. Now, if you're not familiar with Traska, they were launched back in 2018 with the Kickstarter campaign with the first Freediver model, and it was immediately funded, so it was quite successful, and the owner, John, who's based in Florida, USA, was a big fan of vintage-inspired sports watches, but he wanted to update them with more modern materials to make them more robust. And indeed, this Freediver is quite robust and easy wearing. There are a number of different color options available on the Traska website. I did happen to purchase the mint green version with my own money. So why don't we flip perspectives now and you guys can actually check out this watch up close in the studio. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at this mint green Traska Freediver. But before getting into the watch, I do want to mention I like the minimalistic use of packaging Traska uses. It's just shipped in that black box inside, which also contains this very nice travel leather watch pouch, which is quite practical. So good on Traska for not going over the top with huge boxes or pages and pages of manuals. Now, picking up the watch in hand, it does feel quite robust, and it's a little bit more compact than most divers on the market today, coming in with a case diameter of 40.5 millimeters. Now, if I flip the watch over to the side, the wingspan, so that's the lug-to-lug distance between my thumbs here, comes in at 48 millimeters. I measure total case height at 12.2 millimeters. That's from the bottom of the screw-down case back and to the top of this boxed and double dome sapphire crystal, which also carries anti-reflective treatment on the underside. The other measurement I like to discuss is the lug opening for the supplied OEM bracelet is an even 20 millimeters, and it tapers nicely. So you got 20 millimeters at the head of the watch, and then this tapers down to about 16 millimeters before you hit the Traska signed clasp, which is finely brushed. You have a nice polished chamfered edge here. You have 4 levels of micro adjustment anchoring points, and it's a twin trigger releasing mechanism. And inside the milled swing arms here, you get some really nice prolage work, which you typically don't find at micro brand watches at this price point. Now, if we roll back over to the dial, I do think that the dial is the star of a show. The mint green is very nice, and it's actually legible when you consider the white handset and applied markers, as well as the black ceramic bezel insert. This dial layout is fairly minimalistic, which I like, and it's fairly devoid of text. You just have the Traska logo and text below the 12 o'clock index, and then when you get closer to the 6 o'clock position, it does say automatic and give you the 200 meter water resistance designation. In terms of iterative improvements, the version 1 of a Freediver only had about 100 meters of water resistance, and the automatic movement used inside was a Seiko NH35 or 36, which had a 3 Hz sweep. They've now upgraded this to a Miyota 9 series movement, which you can see the sweep of the second hand is smoother because it ticks away at 4 Hz, has 24 joules, about a 42-hour power reserve, and anecdotally, it performs quite well. On my time grapher, this watch is deviating only about +6 or +7 seconds per day, which is quite good. Now, with each iteration of the Freediver, the shapes of the hands and the applied indices have changed up a little bit. For this version, you have some nice trapezoidal markers for the applied indexes, with a larger one at the 12 o'clock position. And then you have some simple sword style hands for the hour and minute hand, a nice elongated second hand with a lollipop loom pip there. And you can see how the second hand does reach out to the periphery of the running minute track. So getting a quick read on time is quite easy to do. The bezel insert on this guy is a nice coin edge bezel, which is easy to grip. It's 120 click unidirectional with very nice crisp action. And the insert itself isn't too tight, but each click is very well pronounced, and the alignment is also really spot on. In terms of low light legibility, you do have the applied markers, the handset, and the indexes on the ceramic bezel insert loomed up with BGW9 Swiss Superluminova, which I think was a good choice. And I'll show you guys a low light shot now, just so you can see how potent it is. If I'm being honest, I would say this lume is just average. And to my surprise, when you take a closer look at the applied indices, it does seem to be a little bit uneven when it comes to lume coating all of the markers, especially around the 10 or 11 o'clock indice. You can see that it's a bit patchy in certain areas. I'm not sure if this is just a QC issue with my watch, but I do hope this is something that Traska improves upon for other models, and it wasn't present when I picked up the Summiteer this time last year. Now in terms of case finishing, it's pretty much nice fine brushing across the sides of the case and the tops of the lugs. The only bit of polish you can really see is that nice chamfered polished bevel as you make that transition from the side of the case to the hoods of the lugs here. Now if the luster of the steel looks a little bit different, almost like titanium, that's because a really big added feature and bonus for these Traska watches is that the case and bracelet are coated with a super hard treatment that improves the scratch resistance and overall hardness of the steel to about 1200 Vickers. That's about 4 times harder than normal 316L surgical stainless steel, and I do really enjoy that aspect of this watch. If we look at the side of the case, you can see that the crown for this watch is signed with the Traska logo. There are no crown guards, and it's knurled very well, so gripping the crown is easy. You have to obviously unscrew it. You get a nice pop. In the open position, you can manually wind the 9 series Miyota movement, and then if you just pull it out once, you can actually stop the seconds hand, hack the bounce, and you can then set to any reference time you want. Now, the oyster style bracelet supplied for the Freediver, and in fact for any Traska model, you're pretty much going to get this same bracelet, is engineered very well, as I mentioned earlier on. It's 3 links. The articulation is so that you can actually fold all of the links across the case back, and you can even push the links together so they like stack up on each other, which is really cool. In terms of sizing, each of the links have slot screws, which are quite robust and thick. So you shouldn't have any difficulties actually removing or adding links if you want to size this for your specific wrist size. And here's a quick wrist shot just to show you how the Freediver wears on my 7.5-inch wrist. That's 19 centimeters in circumference if you're going with the metric measurement. And it's extremely comfortable to wear. The total weight for this watch, including the bracelet, comes in at 141 grams when sized to my wrist. Now you can actually see the case does have drilled lug openings, so if you do want to swap this bracelet to a strap later on, it's very easy to do. Alright, so before wrapping up the video, I typically would discuss any negative aspects or points for improvement, and there really isn't too much to talk about with a Traska here. The notable exception is with the application of a lume not being very even on the applied indices. Given that this is a dive watch, I would like to see the potency also increase for future iterations. And the last thing I'll discuss, which isn't really necessarily a negative element, but just something so you're aware of, is that with each iterative change to the Freediver, I do think that the price has increased. When these guys were originally launched on Kickstarter, of course it was a lot cheaper, coming in at under $400. This watch is now positioned at $600 US. And for me, being lucky and Canadian, when you factor in the conversion from US to Canadian currency and the huge import fees I was hit with, this watch came close to 950 Canadian dollars. Now I do want to emphasize that the import duties had nothing to do with Traska. That was all courtesy of our good friends at FedEx, and those charges were about 150 bucks. So you're left to ask yourself, is this watch worth close to $1,000? And when you break down all of the features like the super hard coating on the case and bracelet, the unique colorway and the comfort on wrist, and the clean and vintage aesthetic, I still kind of think it is worth it. It's just you're not getting the same deal that you would used to. So in the future, and what I'll probably do for other Traska releases is maybe check out the secondhand market and let someone else take the hit if you're going to be importing the watch. Now, if you do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It helps out a lot. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.